Hare Kṛṣṇa.
Hare Kṛṣṇa, dear devotees. Please join us today in the study of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Today we will be studying Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 5. Nārada's instructions on Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam for Vyāsadeva. Hare Kṛṣṇa, please join us for Jai Radha Madhav prayers. devotees, please join us for the invocation prayers.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudiriyet. Shavatam Swakatha Kṛṣṇa Punya Shavana Kirtanaha Hridayantasto Hya Bhadrani Vidunoti Suhasatam Nashta Prayeshva Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatir Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavti Naishtiki. Hare Kṛṣṇa. Thank you for joining us today. It is very auspicious to listen, hearing Shravanam, and especially about the name, fame, activities, pastimes, paraphernalia of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna. So that is the summum bonum on this particular, the main message in this chapter. So let's get started with the recitation of the first verse. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 5, Verse 1. Sutta uvacha Atatam sukham asina upasinam brahachravaha devashi praha viprarishim veenapani samayanna iva. Translation by His Divine Grace S.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Sutta Goswami said, thus the sage amongst the gods, Nārada, comfortably seated and apparently smiling, addressed the Rishi amongst the Brahmanas, Vyāsadeva. Purport: Nārada was smiling because he very well knew the great sage Vyāsadeva and the cause of his disappointment. As he will explain gradually, Vyasadeva's disappointment was due to inefficiency in presenting the signs of devotional service. Nārada knew the defect and it was confirmed by the position of Vyasa. Hare Krishna. Please join us for Guru Pranati. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Śrīmate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyatya Deshatarine Om Ajnana Timrandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Mukham Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayate Girim Yat Kripa Tadaham Vande Shri Gurum Dīnataranam. Hare Kṛṣṇa Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rāma 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So, in the previous chapter, chapter 4, where there were 3 subcategories of questions were raised by the sages at Naimisharanya, and we heard about the story of Shukdev Goswami as how he ran away from his home because he wanted to be self-realized. And earlier we covered the history of how he was born, who he was in his previous life. He was pet of Radharani, Shukdev Goswami. Shuk also means parrot. And the sages, when they were asking questions earlier from Sutta Goswami at Naimisharanya, one of their questions was, from where did, Srila Vyāsadeva get inspiration for writing this transcendental literature, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, describing the name, form, activities, pastimes of Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa? And of course, we see that all the way till the 9th canto, there are various devotees also glorified, and further in 11th canto, Lord Kṛṣṇa himself is, describing the glories of his devotees to Uddhav. That's also called Uddhav Gita, 11th canto. And then 12th canto is the symptoms of Kali age has been described. So in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, the 10 subject matters have been discussed. And here, when Vyāsadeva, after having written all the Vedas, so it was, prior to that age, means as he saw that Kali age is approaching, and knowing the characteristic of human beings, as the humans born in Kali age will have less age, they will have short lives, they will be quarrelsome, they will be hypocritic in their behavior, they will be, again, the humans born in this age will be lazy, they will be, not so intelligent, poor fund of knowledge. Srila Prabhupada used to say they would have poor fund of knowledge. As well as people born in Kali age also are influenced because they are unlucky because of the circumstances around them, and so they are constantly disturbed. And this is because everyone is in the relative world, thinking of happiness and distress, thinking of heat and cold and so forth, and being affected, so they behave. And they are seeking sense gratification because being attracted by the flowery language of the Vedas. So when, after having written all the Vedas, after having written all the Puranas, including Mahabharata and Ramayana, he was still not very happy. So prior to that time, even Ramayana written by Valmiki was Shruti, right? It was, Purana Adi. So again, they were being understood just by hearing. The knowledge was received by hearing. But because people in this age will not be able to retain all the knowledge that they hear, there is a tendency to forget, right? Means again, we hear and we forget. So that's a common symptom. And when we see, we remember. And then when we do, then we understand. So these are the common symptoms of this age, as people, they only understand when they really engage in doing it. Just by hearing, it looks very easy, as we talked about. Devotional service people hear, yes, it is very easy. So, it's not for us. We want to do something very hard. And the hard thing that they engage in, thinking that that would give them satisfaction, actually drains away the energy, the time, the potency of the human beings, and does not yield the permanent result, as we'll be discussing here. So Srila Vyāsadeva, when he was, after finishing his morning oblations, he was contemplating about, why he is despondent. Despondent means, why is he, not so happy? Why is he feeling that there is something missing? And he understood what it was. It was that he had not glorified the glories of Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa, his name, form, activities, pastimes, enough. And the flowery language of the Vedas, and the Puranas would attract the people to engage in further sense gratification. So as he was contemplating and realizing his fault, Devashi Nārada appears. Now he sees Devashi Nārada, and this is a wonderful sight because Devashi Nārada is son of Lord Brahma. And he already has a spiritual body. So he is already spiritualized. He is a spiritual spaceman. He can go wherever he wants without any hindrance. He can travel in outer space without the need of a plane. Right? He already has all the siddhis. The Ashta Siddhis we talk about, he already has those. And when he approaches Devashi Nārada worships him like one worships Lord Brahma, because he is representative. Not just that he is son of Lord Brahma, he is also a representative in the Sampradaya, Brahma Sampradaya. And then he seats him very nicely, and this is where Devashi Nārada, the word used for Devashi Nārada is Devarishi. So the saint among the demigods, among the devas, one who is Rishi. And for Vyāsadeva, Vipra Rishi has been referred. So he is Rishi among the Brahmanas. So both are exalted personalities, empowered incarnations of Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa, as we heard in chapter 3 of Canto 1. So as Devashi Nārada, he sat down, very close. At that time, Vyāsadeva sitting, he asked Vyāsadeva, in a very compassionate voice. Now this is where we get to learn that even if someone is more intelligent, somebody knows and somebody understands something, yet they have to present, the facts in a palatable manner. So he is asking Vyāsadeva, so my dear Vyas, tell me, are you satisfied by identifying the method of self-realization through body or mind? Because that's what has been the stress, because people would get attached, and Devarshi Nārada knew this. Vyāsadeva understood this, and so he's asking Srila Vyāsadeva. And at that time, Srila Vyāsadeva immediately understood the purport, the meaning behind Devarshi Nārada asking him this question. So instead of responding with a response as an answer, he further expresses his feelings. And this is very important, that sometimes when we are in front of a highly elevated devotees of the Lord, we should reveal our mind, right? Guhiyam akhyati prichati. And that leads to enabling our loving exchanges. So those are two of the loving exchanges, that we inquire about the secret matters and we inquire submissively in a pleasing manner. So instead of getting offended by this question, which is fact, right? But it has been present in such a manner that Srila Vyāsadeva, very humbly, he says that I am not satisfied. Please try to find a defect in what I have done. And at that time, as Vyāsadeva is revealing, Devarshi Nārada, he is not beating around the bush. He directly comes to the point. He directly reveals to him that you have not glorified the name, form, activities, pastimes of Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, enough. And you have written the scriptures where people will be attracted to the flowery language and would seek sense gratification. And Srila Prabhupada gives this example that people in this age, when they are understanding that Vedas are coming from Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa, so again, it was spoken from the heart, Hridaya se adi kaviye. So Lord Kṛṣṇa revealed Vedas to Lord Brahma through the heart of Lord Brahma. So that has been revealed to Lord Brahma, and then it came down and is available to all of us because of the mercy of Srila Vyāsadeva and Vipra Rishi, Srila Vyāsadeva. And so people get attracted to the flowery language. They say, oh, I want this, So they take as the Vedas to be a place where you can do trades. I give you this, you give me this. And there are different kind of worships or sacrifices or charity being referred, and austerities one can perform to attain a specific goal. But these goals are oriented towards sense gratification. So it is not that the Vedas are bad. It is not that they have any defect. No, it is the way we use the Vedas that is our fault, as how we are using it for sense gratification. And this was the fear Devarshi Nārada was revealing, and Vyāsadeva was recognizing, and we are experiencing. So this is a very interesting scenario that is going on, in this Kali age. Yet at the same time, instead of calling that it is our fault, people try to blame Vedas. They are saying the Vedas are faulty. Now, there was a reason. Vedas, they encourage animal sacrifices, right? So animal killing in the name of sacrifices were encouraged in the Kali age, and it was not Vedas were encouraging it. If you chant the mantra, so there was a test of the mantra, you chant the mantra in a very, based on the meter with the proper setting and everything, if all the rules and regulations are being maintained, then the animal that is sacrificed would not have to go through various units, would immediately get a human body. So that was the test. But people in this age do not have qualification. The Brahmanas in this age do not have that potency they used to have in the previous ages. So they cannot chant the mantra so that the animal would walk out. Yet at the same time, the another purpose was that people who are engaged in meat eating, their habit would be regulated. And there was a mantra, the person who is chopping the head of the animal would say in the ear of the, so if they are making an offering to Mother Kali, another form of Goddess Durga, then they would speak in the ear of that goat that I am killing you in this birth and I give you the right to kill me in the next birth. So this is like, causing yourself to be in the same cycle. And over a period of time, the person who is chanting this mantra would understand, why am I causing such a big havoc on myself? Why am I inviting such havoc on myself by taking to meat eating? And they would refrain from meat eating in due course of time. They would rise above that platform. That was the purpose. However, people, they don't understand. And so Srila Prabhupada reveals that slaughterhouses, they opened up all over the places, and people, they stopped paying attention to even the basic rules and regulations. And animal killing was going on in the name of sacrifices, and it was being encouraged in this Kali age. There is a story of Prachin Bharhi, King Prachin Bharhi, who was also doing animal sacrifices, and there were many animals were being killed. And Devashi Nārada visited him to reveal to him the true purpose and the reactions he's accumulating. That all these animals are actually, he points to the ceiling, he's saying that they're all waiting for you to die so that they can feast on you. And when King Prachin Bharhi hears this, he's completely shaken, right? Sometimes we need to be shaken up, because we are in such a slumber, we are in such a deep sleep that we need to be shaken up and awakened so that we realize we should not be doing these wrong actions. So similarly, here Devashi Nārada is revealing to Vyāsadeva that you have not glorified the glories of Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa in your literature, and that is the cause of your feeling despondent, feeling despair. And as he continues to identify, he is also identifying that to Vyāsadeva, that in the writing, in the Vedas, as he split Vedas into 4, and the Puranas, if you see Mahabharata, the best part of Mahabharata is the Bhishma Parva, the 18 chapters in Bhishma Parva, which are also referred to as Bhagavad Gita or Gita-Upanishad. So they are the most important ones. But when people refer to Mahabharata, they get attracted to other, Dhyuti Leela, where Duryodhana is cheating Yudhishthira Maharaj, or they get attracted to the battlefield where, Bhishma Pitama is, fighting, and Dronacharya is fighting from, Duryodhana's side, and Bhim and the Pandavas are fighting with the Kauravas. So again, they get attracted to different phases. Very few people get attracted and focus on the 18 chapters of Gita-Upanishad, which are right in the middle of Mahabharata. So it is also very interesting that by tendency people want to avoid philosophy. But the beauty is that Mahabharata was written for this age, and it was directly written for people who could not read Vedas, which were Dvij Bandhus, or the ladies, and the Shudras, and further, lower human beings. So that was the purpose of Mahabharata being written. And Bhagavad Gita is right here, so it is very appropriate for the current age. Many times people ask, well, Bhagavad Gita was written 5,000 years back, how does it apply? It is written for us. They knew that we would need the lessons that are in Bhagavad Gita. Now, many times people, they also want to read scriptures which are very just like Vedas. They are written in a very flowery language, so they want to read that kind of literature, self-glorifying literature. So when Prabhupada was preaching and ISKCON movement was growing very rapidly in the Western world, there was a book, I Am Okay, You Are Okay. And so when devotees would go out distributing Bhagavad Gita, people would ask, do you have I Am Okay, You Are Okay? So Srila Prabhupada said that, tell them, I am okay, you are not okay. So you need Bhagavad Gita. So that way they would be more awakened. So sometimes it is important for us to awaken the other party, because they are in a slumber. They do not know what havoc they are causing on themselves day and night. And the 4 religious principles which have been again propagated, which attract people, are Dharma, Artha, Kam, Moksha. Dharma is religiosity, Artha is economic development, Kam is enjoyment, sensual engagement, and then Moksha is salvation, liberation from this life. So sometimes people think of salvation or liberation as merging into Brahman. Well, that is only partial expansion of Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa. And further, closer is the super soul in the heart, who has Sat Chit, because Brahman only has Sat feature, the eternity, eternal feature. But super soul in the heart has Sat and Chit, eternal as well as full in knowledge. And then Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is Satchidananda Vigraha. Sat, eternity, Chit is knowledge, Anand is transcendental bliss. So his form, again the word is Vigraha, so he has a form, he has a beautiful two-armed Shyam Sundar form. Ishvaraha Paramaha Kṛṣṇah Satchidananda Vigraha Anadir Adir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam. So one of his name is Govinda. Govinda is, Go refers to the senses as well as to the cows. So one who gives pleasure to the senses and also one who gives pleasure to the cows. That's why the name Govind is there. And then economic development is also something people say that how are we going to sustain ourselves? The moment we are born, our, whatever the happiness, distress, that has already been determined. Even the lifespan has been determined. And lifespan is not determined in terms of seconds, hours, days, years, months. They are actually determined as per the number of breaths we would take. So if we engage in work that causes us to breathe very quickly, short, we are actually aging ourselves. We are getting closer to death. That's why again and again, when we talk about Ashtanga yogis, they try to take to pranayam, pratyahara, asanas, and these tend to expand the breaths. By expanding the breath, they expand their lifespan as well, because it energizes the body as well. And which is good, but that should not become the goal. They are the means to attain the goal of life. And the goal is to attain love of Godhead, to be able to go back home, back to Godhead. And the literature, this is revealed in this chapter as Devashi Nārada is revealing to Vyāsadeva. Tadvad visargo janatag viplavo yasmin pratishlokam apadhavatyapi Namanyanantasya yasho ankitani yat shravanti gahyanti grahanti sadhvaha. Tadvad visargo janatagha viplavo. Viplavo means again, this is going to cause revolution. What is going to cause revolution? The yasmin pratishlokam apadhavatyati. So even the literature which glorifies the name, form, activities, pastimes, namanya anantasya, the name, form, activities, namanya, name, form, activities, pastimes, the literature that describes the name, form, activities, pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, of Ananta, one who is unlimited. And there is only one personality who is unlimited, Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And from him are expanding various Swamshas, which are Vishnu Tattvas, Vibhinamshas, which are the living entities. He is full of many potencies, coming in three categories: internal potency, represented by Radharani; external potency, represented by Maya. Sometimes she is referred to as Mahamaya or Durga Devi. And then the third one is the living entities, Tathashta Shakti. So we are the marginal potency, and we are supposed to be superior than the material nature. Yet at the same time, we take on material nature, so we take on these bodies, and so our intelligence gets covered. And so even the Vedas which talk about elevating higher and higher spiritually, we take the Vedas, and because of the influence of time, influence of the three modes of material nature, we fall under the spell so that we seek sense gratification. And that's one of the reasons why a sense gratifier is not glorified, because it is a very selfish mode. It is not that demigod worshippers are bad, it is the mindset that they have. And Srila Prabhupada used to refer to this story, that once there was this demigod worshipper. He was a worshipper of goddess Durga. So one day he went to the temple and he said, "Oh my dear goddess, please get me such and such results, and I will sacrifice a goat for you." So in due course of time, he received the result and he understood that this has come because of the mercy of Goddess Durga. So he would continue to go to the temple, yet at the same time, he would not fulfill the promise that he made. So one day Goddess Durga told him, you promised me, a goat. At least fulfill your promise. He said, well, goat, very difficult to find, it is very difficult. I don't know if I can afford. She said, at least, sacrifice a hog. He says, okay, I will see. But he didn't do even that. And, she kept coming. And then one day she says, you should fulfill your promise you made. So he says, no, it is not right. I don't want to sacrifice a hog, realizing that, okay, if he sacrifices a hog, in the next life he has to become a hog, and that hog will kill him, will sacrifice him to the goddess. So he doesn't want to get into that cycle. So then she says, see, there are so many flies around you. At least sacrifice a fly. That has a very short lifespan. It will not be that painful. And he says, my dear goddess, there are so many flies around you also, so why don't you just take one of them as you desire? So this is where Srila Prabhupada was revealing that the demigod worshippers are very selfish. They are very much just seeking sense gratification. Even the trade they want to do is, with that motive. They want to cheat, and they want to, just take the best for themselves and leave the rest for others. So that is the tendency. That's why demigod worshippers are not very much glorified, because of the tendency to enjoy in sensual pleasure. And of course, they continue to go through this cycle. How does one come out of this cycle? It's been revealed in this chapter. So, now interesting thing that's revealed here is, sometimes people, they read the literature and they see that if there is a mistake, right, a spelling mistake, a typo or a grammatical mistake, then they start criticizing the author. And here Devashi Nārada is saying that a literature, describing the name, form, activities, pastimes of Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa, even if it has, every verse has some kind of error. Yet at the same time, it is glorious, it is transcendental, and people who are intelligent, people who are sadhvas, right? People who are purified and honest, they accept that literature. Shravanti, Gayanti, Grahanti. Shravanti means they hear this literature, Gayanti, they describe this literature, and they accept Grahanti, they accept this literature. So that's the glories of a literature which can cause revolution in our life. And Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is such literature. It has been written for us to cause revolution in our lives, so that we can attain the love of Godhead, the goal of life, and stop all miseries of this world. So as Devashi Nārada, he continues to describe. Now one of the tendencies, one lesson that we hear is, Vyāsadeva is simply hearing in this particular case. Even though he knew, even though Devashi Nārada is continuing to describe, there are two important questions being discussed here in this particular chapter. That's the 8th and 9th. So again, we talked about in the previous 4th chapter, there was one question. The 7th question with 3 categories were identified as how this literature was written, and the sages had asked Sutta Goswami earlier also that what inspired Srila Vyāsadeva to write Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. So at this particular time, Devashi Nārada, he is describing the glories of the transcendental name, form, activities, pastimes of Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa, and we realize in this age that can simply be attained and understood when we take to the chanting of the holy name. Hare Kṛṣṇa, Kṛṣṇa Kṛṣṇa, Hare Hare, Hare Rāma, Rāma Rāma, Hare Hare. Devashi Nārada is describing that Lord is the root of the complete tree. So he is the root and everything is emanating. Sarva Karana Karanam. He is the cause of all causes. So if you please Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa, then everyone around us will be pleased. And just like a boat, when she is agitated by the wind, which has been driven away by the wind in a given direction, our senses, can drive our mind away, and which can cause our fall down. So we should be very much in control of our senses. We should try to engage our senses in serving the devotees and the Lordship, so that we don't get bewildered. Anytime we get bewildered, we should pick up the literature and start reading it. Mahatma Gandhi, he says in his, he's recognizing that Bhagavad Gita, he says that any time that he would feel despondent, disappointed, he would not see a ray of hope, then at that time he would pick up Bhagavad Gita, just open a page and read it, and he would get amazing light, he would get amazing direction. Just by reading Bhagavad Gita, he would attain tranquility, he would attain peace, he will become equipoised, he will become calm, and he starts to see light at the end of the tunnel, this dark tunnel that he was struggling to drive the Britishers out of India. And Srila Prabhupada reveals that at the age of 36, even though he was a married man, he had become a brahmachari. He was he was not engaging any sensual activity, and that gave him so much determination, that gave him so much enthusiasm, that gave him so much strength, that he took the whole movement, which is non-violence, without picking up any arms against the British Empire, and non-cooperation, and not agreeing to what they say, but doing what is right. By taking to that path, he was able to drive away the Britishers out of India. So such is the power when we take to such transcendental literature, that we get amazing determination, amazing strength, amazing blessings that we get when we pick up and even read one shloka. That gives us so much peace, that removes so much, reduces the stress, as well as removes so much anxiety from our mind. And then we don't get disturbed. Our body is not, feeling the burning sensation like Arjun was feeling, seeing his relatives on the battlefield. Or we don't feel our mind wandering and feeling void. Actually, there is nothing like void. It is, adhyatmic misery. It is the, one of the kind of miseries, the three kinds of misery we talked about. Adhyatmic, Adidevik, Adibhautik. Adhyatmic is one, the miseries created by mind. 90% of the miseries that we create, once we experience, that we suffer, are basically created by mind. So if that is controlled, then we only have to worry about two others. And then Adibhautik miseries, by taking to devotional service, automatically we rise above the dualities, Samadarshi, we become, we rise above the relativity and see everyone as devotee of Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa, Jivera Saruphoya Kṛṣṇa Nityadas. So they start to drive in the right direction. So then we start to look at everyone as our friend, as a devotee of Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa, as an eternal servant of Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa. So automatically we would address each other with that, in that manner and with that attitude, yet at the same time in a respectful way, so that we accept things that are favorable for devotional service and reject things that are unfavorable. So our focus still stays, and we are still, reflecting that all are brothers and sisters around us, and we should just be, bringing them. If we see someone who is not so elevated, then we should feel compassionate towards them. If we see someone who is equal, so by feeling compassionate, that means we, share this wonderful knowledge. We describe, we discuss Bhagavad Gita, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam with them. When we see someone who's our equal, who's a devotee also, who's studying the scriptures, then we discuss further about the amazing pastimes and tushyanti cha ramanti cha. So in that manner, we feel great satisfaction in our heart, and we experience transcendental bliss. And if we see someone who's more advanced, we pay obeisances to them, we serve them, we try to please them, to receive blessings from them. What do we have? Means again, Lord is Ananta, He is Vibhu. He is the all-potent personality, He is almighty. As we know, God is almighty. Yet at the same time, we are Anu, we are very limited, very minute. But there is one thing that we can have, which is also unlimited, which is love for Godhead. We all in our heart have unlimited love for Godhead. that love, that lamp is just covered. So we have to light up this lamp. So this is like fanning the spark that we have in our heart, so that our devotional service awakens and we engage in that loving mode towards Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa, towards all living entities. And constantly engaging in devotional service, we can attain perfection. And this is the focus of the literature that Devashi Nārada is revealing to Vyāsadeva, that you have to glorify Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa. You have not glorified enough. Then he starts describing the various characteristics. Why the transcendental literature that describes the transcendental name, form, activities, pastimes of Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa are above all other mundane literatures. He continues to say that a devotee, when he falls down from his position, right, by being allured by the material energy or by having offended someone or having committed even sinful acts, then that fall down is not the same fall down as that of a materialist, a person who is engaged in sense gratification. The act may be the same, but the devotee fall down is like a beloved son of a rich man who has gone out of the house, giving away all the wealth of his father. While a materialist fall down is like a pauper or like a poor man on the street. They may look, both of them may look like a beggar, they may look like a poor person, but they are not at the same level. Why? Because the father is still compassionate towards his son and he is constantly keeping a watch. So Lord Kṛṣṇa, as Super Soul in our heart, knows who is what, and for devotee, he is specially compassionate. That's why he tells Arjuna to declare it boldly on the battlefield. Kaunteya prati janihi name bhakta pranashyati. My dear Arjuna, declare it boldly that my devotee shall never perish. When Lord Kṛṣṇa is saying that, Srila Prabhupada gives him the purport, beautiful. And those are his transcendental ecstasy. Srila Prabhupada's transcendental ecstasy is describing that when a devotee has a fall down because of a mistake, because of being attracted by the senses, or because of, even, by mistake, unknowingly, not because of less knowledge and less improper understanding, he immediately situates himself back. This is where it is said that when we are chanting, in the beginning the stage is namaprad, which is offensive chanting. So in the beginning when we start to chant, our mind is wandering at all over the place. We're thinking about what are we going to do during the day, how are we going to interact with our people at work, how are we going to take care of some of the urgent matters that we have to take care of. So that chanting is called namaprad, this offensive chanting. Now what's the, how do you remove offenses that comes through chanting? By proper chanting. So you continue to chant, and this time you drag your mind back. My dear mind, come back and please listen to this mantra. Hare Kṛṣṇa, Kṛṣṇa Kṛṣṇa, Hare Hare, Hare Rāma, Rāma Rāma, Hare Hare. And so that Namabhas. So that's like, we know that the sun is going to rise in our life. That spiritual sunrise is going to happen, and slowly, as we continue to bring the mind back and focus on hearing the chanting, pronouncing the words very nicely, then we will finally come to the level of Shuddhanam, which is the stage where our engagement in devotional service becomes steady. We continue to serve the Lordship, and by doing Shuddhanam, we attain the love of Godhead. So it is a Shuddhanam that we get love of Godhead. Namabhas, again, there are two different categories, but then people who have faith and then they are chanting and getting distracted, but they bring the mind back. So that particular Namabhas with Shraddha is even higher than the one where we are chanting, but we continue to have offenses and get distracted. So all we have to do is make the right choice, and that is the freedom we get. We get minute freedom, but that minute freedom has a mega effect, right? It has a major impact on how we think, how we live, and how we continue to progress spiritually. So here Devashi Nārada is revealing to Vyāsadeva that an expert physician, he does not make any compromise with the patient by allowing him to take partially what he should not take. Srila Prabhupada used to tell a story of two brothers. One of the brothers was sick. he was having a stomachache. So, his mother said, no, you are not going to eat anything, especially not the fried stuff, not the oily stuff. So the younger brother was feeling in this manner. So older brother was feeling little compassionate. And when mother was away, the older brother came to the younger brother. He said, are you hungry? He said, yes, if I can get one paratha, that would be very nice. So the older brother, feeling very compassionate towards the younger brother, he went, stole a paratha, gave it to his younger brother. Now when mother came to know, she saw that the younger son is feeling a very bad stomachache. He's twisting and turning. He said, why are you feeling that? I gave you right medicine and everything. Then the older brother said, actually he was feeling very, very hungry, and so I gave him a paratha. And now the mother was angry with the older one because he did something which was actually harmful. So we should be very careful not to just please the body, please the senses, but we should be looking at each other's spiritual advancement. Every relationship that we have is a test on us as how well are we spiritually advancing and helping each other advance spiritually by engaging in devotional service. So sometimes when people make mistakes, how will they be protected? So there are various references Srila Prabhupada gives in the purpose. He gives the example of Bharat Maharaj as how he was meditating on stag, and at the last moment, at the moment of death, he was thinking of the stag. So in the next life he became a stag, right? A stag is a deer. So that's because Lord Krishna says, Antakale cha mameva smaran muktva kalevaram yeh prayati samadbhavam yati nastatra samshaya. So if one thinks of me at the last moment of his life, then he will come to me. But that's not what Bharat Maharaj was doing. So the next verse is in Bhagavad Gita in the 8th chapter is, we call it yummy verse, and when you eat too much yummy, then you get acid reflexes and you have to take Tums, right? Sometimes antacids. So that's both the words come in this particular verse. Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tajyantanta kalevaram tam tam evati kanteya sada tad bhava bhavita. So whatever one thinks at the last moment of his life, that one attains. So the mind is the carrier that carries us to that destination, what we were thinking at the last moment. So whatever desire, whatever thought, whatever we are perceiving in our mind, that's where mind carries us. So Bharat Maharaj was thinking of the deer that he got attached to, he was taking care of, so he became a deer. But Lord still protected him by keeping his memory intact. So even though born as a stag, as a deer, he remembered his life as Bharat Maharaj, the emperor of the world, and the cause of his fall down because he became attached. So even though he was born in the body of a deer, he sought sadhu sangha, he sought devotee association. That's why association is glorified. And he was going to the rishis, ashrams, and constantly hearing pravachan, the discourses on the transcendental name, form, activities, pastimes of Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa. So in the next birth after stag, he was born in the family of a Brahmana, and his name was Bharat again. But he acted like dull, Jada, so his name became Jada Bharat, and we hear about him in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Then there is story of King Chitraketu. He, also offended Lord Shiva and Parvati, and he was cursed. So he, even though was born as an asura, as a demon, was protected by the Lord. Then we hear very commonly about Ajamil, right, who sought the association of a prostitute, had 10 sons from her, and at the last moment, by Lord's mercy, he called out his son. When he saw Yamdutas, he called out his son's name, Nārayan, Nārayan. And at that time, Vishnu Dutas came and saved him. And so he was able to get a second chance, and he used that second chance wisely, so that he was able to go back home, back to Godhead. In this way, Devashi Nārada is revealing the secure position of a devotee, one who engages in devotional service. And he is saying that the purpose of life, it's not to seek sense enjoyment, but rather to engage in devotional service. tasyeva heto prayateta kovido na labhyate yad brahmatam uparyadaha tallabhyate dukhvadanyataha sukham kalena sarvata gabhira ramhasa. So one should not endeavor to achieve things that are available in this material world, even from Brahma-lok down to the Patal-lok. Rather, one should make an endeavor to get out of this material world, because there are two characteristics of this material world. What are the two characteristics? Dukkhalayam ashashvatam. Right? So it is place of misery and everything is temporary. And even though we do not, we are seeking happiness, but the happiness automatically comes by its own course, just like distress that comes in its due course, even though we don't desire them. So that's why we should continue to engage in devotional service. Devashi Nārada is revealing to Vyāsadeva. And then he continues to describe to, Devashi Nārada is describing to Vyāsadeva about the impersonal form, Brahman feature of Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa as well as Paramatma. And then he is saying that you have focused on these two characteristics, and you should elaborately describe the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa, in his Shyam Sundar form, in his Navayavana. Advaitam Achyutam Anadim Ananta Rupam Adyam Purana Purusham Navayavanam Cha Vedeshu Durlabham Adurlabham Atma Bhakto Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. So in Brahma Samhita, Lord Brahma is praying that, Lord, you are Advaitam. There is no one who is equal to you. Right? Achyutam, you never fall down. Anadim Anantarupam, you are the oldest person, Anadi. No one is older than you, you are the oldest person. Anantarupam, you have unlimited forms. Adyam Purana Purusham, you are the oldest person, Adyam Purana Purusham, you are the oldest, and Purusham. When somebody says, okay, if somebody is really old person, then they're thinking, okay, white hair and white beard and, weak body. No. Navayavanamcha, right? Adyam Purana Purusham Navayavanamcha, just 16 years of age, just youthful features and beautiful form. Vedeshu Durlabham, who cannot be, this is Lord Kṛṣṇa, you cannot approach Lord Kṛṣṇa through Vedas, but we can easily approach the Lordship Atma Bhakta as a devotee. So through Vedas it is very difficult to approach Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa, to attain Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa, but he can easily be conquered just by pure devotional service. And what does he ask for? He asks for a very basic thing. Patram pushpam phalam toyam yo me bhakta prayachiti tadaham bhakti upritam ashnami prayatatmana. He is saying, if one offers me with love, right, bhaktya. So with bhakti, if one offers patra, leaf, pushpa, flower, phal, fruit, or even water, he will accept it when it's offered with love. And the devotee also knows that we have to engage in the 9 process of devotional service. Shavanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Pada Sevanam Archanam Vandanam Dasyam Sakhyam Atmanivedanam. These are the 9 process of devotional service that Prahlad Maharaj reveals in the 7th canto, and then Shukdev Goswami adds 2 more, reading and writing. So of all these processes, and then Srila Rupa Goswami identifies the 64 processes of devotional service. So the series grows. Most important is Shravanam. So that is very important. Now, Devashi Nārada had been giving examples about others, like, the devotee never falls down. He comes to his own example. He says that, my dear Vyāsadeva, in the previous day of Brahma, right, in the Mahakalpa, in the previous day of Lord Brahma, I was born as a son of a maidservant. And sometimes when people hear about this, and then they realize that Devashi Nārada, he attained spiritual body. So in that birth, just the previous birth, he was a son of a maidservant, and now he has a spiritual body. So, anybody can get it. Sometimes people say, whatever process we take, we'll attain the same goal. No, that is not true. If you take a ticket to go to Bombay, you're not going to land in New Delhi, even though all your relatives may be taking a ticket to New Delhi and going to New Delhi. You will end up in Bombay. So you have to take to the right process. Tad vidhi. Just try to understand the process and then follow it. What happens is, it is in the 7th canto when discussing, conversing and instructing Yudhishthira Maharaj, enlightening with Yudhishthira Maharaj, Devashi Nārada reveals how he became the son of a maidservant. How did he become a Shudra? He reveals that actually, previous birth to being the son of a maidservant, to becoming a Shudra, he was actually a Gandharva. And his name was Upabarna. And he was very beautiful. And he was generally surrounded by lusty women. And he was a Gandharva. He used to sing beautifully. So once he was invited in a grand festival, and there were various singers singing, glorifying the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And being surrounded by lusty women, when Devashi Nārada's Upabarhana, he started singing glorifying the demigods and the Prajapatis sitting in that assembly. So they got upset and they cursed him to fall down from his position of a Gandharva and become an ugly looking Shudra. So now we sometimes feel attracted to people who are, from very high birth. He did not have a high birth. He was a son of a maidservant. He was born as a Shudra. He was not even born under the mode of goodness or passion. He was born in the mode of ignorance. He was not very good looking. So he is describing that I was born, yet at the same time, I got the association of Vedantist, Bhakti Vedantas. Srila Prabhupada is, his title is also Bhakti Vedanta. So he's describing that in that birth, when he was born, Devashi Nārada was born as son of a maidservant, he got the association of pure devotees. And the Chaturmasya, the 4 months during the rainy season and autumn, that the devotees, they don't travel. So they stay at one place. And they were staying in the same ashram where his mother was serving, and he would help his mother in serving. So he was serving these Bhakti Vedantas. And there was not a grand initiation ceremony with fire sacrifice and all that, because that is Diksha ceremony. Shiksha ceremony is also there, where Shiksha Guru just gives you instructions. An example is, Lord Kṛṣṇa gave instruction to Arjuna on the battlefield. He did not say, hey, let's set up a nice fireplace, I will give a nice Diksha to Arjuna and now he'll be in disciplic succession. No, he gave instructions. Brahma Sampradaya, many personalities, actually in our Sampradaya, Shiksha is more of a mode of creating that link than Diksha. Just like Bhakti Vinod Thakur, he never gave Diksha to Gaur Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj. He gave Shiksha. He was the instructing spiritual master, and that's how the disciplic succession is being carried out. Here, Devashi Nārada is giving Shiksha, he's giving instruction to Vyāsadeva, and that's how that disciplic succession is being maintained. So here, he's identifying that just like doing the same activity, but with a different mindset, just like if you have if upset stomach because of milk, but then there is a milk preparation called curd, which can cure you. So the doctor would prescribe you to take curd, and this will remove the indigestion that's been caused by milk itself. When we are engaged in devotional service, that's why I like putting iron rod in fire, so in contact with fire. And when serving Lord Shri Krishna, we get, touched by fire, and so by the transcendental knowledge, by the transcendental potency of the Lordship, so it purifies us. So similarly, when Nārada, as the son of a maidservant in his previous life, was serving the Vedantists, he was receiving instructions, he felt attracted, and he was, one of the amazing characteristics that he got was that he was very quiet, he would control his senses, he would obey the instructions, he would not go out to play like other kids, he did not even have good education, he was not going to school from the early age. This is Devashi Nārada when he was in his previous life the son of a maidservant. He was just serving the Vedantist and helping his mother. And so one day, he was feeling very attracted to this Vedantist, and sometimes, people, they don't eat everything that's on their plate. So he saw that there were some remnants of food, and this was the mercy, actually, Maha, of the Vedantist. They left it so that he gets to eat it. So this is, and it is said, Srila Prabhupada in the purport says that when you get, the remnants of a pure devotee, you have to be, very much clear that this is coming from a pure devotee. This is coming in the disciplic succession. And then you don't have to take permission. Yet he took permission from the Vedantis if he can eat that food. And when he ate that food, all his sins were immediately eradicated. They immediately nullified. And so that purified him, that removed that layer of ignorance, the clouds of ignorance covering his vision, they were lifted away. And he became more attracted to hearing about the name, form, activities, pastimes of Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa. So, Lord Devashi Nārada is glorifying. He is not going to tell like how he attained liberation in this chapter, that would be in the next chapter. And he's saying that please, my dear Vyāsadeva, glorify Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa, that how by serving Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa, by remembering his name, form, activities, pastimes, one can become free. Bhakti sometimes is misunderstood as another karma yoga. Well, there is a gulf of difference. Bhakti is transcendental. Karma yoga is still within, again, there are various stages in karma yoga. And one could be carrying out their prescribed duties, but if it's not, that prescribed duty is swadharma. It's not aligned with our Sanatan Dharma, constitutional position, Jivera Swaruphoya Kṛṣṇa Nityadas, then it is just karma and it may have reaction if we are attached to the fruits. So he is requesting Vyāsadeva to directly glorify Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa, and in this chapter he sings an amazing verse. So I just wanted you to join me in singing this verse. He's saying, Om Namo Bhagavate Tubhyam Vasudevaya Dhimahi Pradyumnaya Aniruddhaya Nama Sankarshanaya Cha. So he is singing the glories of Vāsadeva. On the left of Vāsadeva is Sankarshan, and then Pradyumna and Aniruddha. So they are all four personalities, and these are the four eighth camp of Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa as his plenary portions, who are managing all the material universes. So sometimes we refer to Purushavatars, the three Purushavatars. Yes, Purushavatars are taking care of creation, maintenance and annihilation, yet at the same time the exhalation and inhalation of Mahavishnu is causing the creation and annihilation of the material universes. The maintenance and the running and the coming of various avatars through Mahavishnu is being managed by these four personalities, who are expansions, the plenary portions of Lord Shri Kṛṣṇa. So this is where the chapter ends, glorifying the devotional service, saying that devotional service is not dependent on jnana or karma, rather it is jnana and karma yoga they are dependent on, coming and culminating into the stage of bhakti, to take to devotional service, where one has to come so that one can transcend the relativity, the miseries, the sufferings, the anxiety of this material world, and attain the goal of life, the love of Godhead. This is where we end the chapter. Hare Kṛṣṇa. Gantra Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai, Śrīla Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Nitaya Go Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Hare Kṛṣṇa.
Hare Kṛṣṇa.